Hello, my name is Juliet Okpala. I am an MBA candidate here at Clayton State University, and I am currently taking accounting, which we'll be getting into a presentation shortly. Today's presentation will be on pricing decisions and cost management. So let's get started. So before we talk about pricing decisions, it is important for us to go over some things that do affect the decisions that people make regarding pricing. So for one, we have the demand, which typically is controlled by customers as they influence prices through their effect on demand. We also have competitors, aka the market, and that influences prices through the actions that they take. And then lastly, we have what we all know as costs, and the influence of this is on prices because they affect supply. It is important before we move on to recognize that all of these items are interchangeably related, right? So when one goes up, the other may go down, vice versa. When one goes down, the other may go up. We've seen some of this, I would say, for example, during the pandemic, right? We've always had things like hand sanitizer, bleach, sanitizing wipes, etc. However, during that time, there was obviously a scare with the germs that were circulating and things like that. So whereas typical cleaning supplies would have been at a regular price, we started to see that the supply went down. We also saw that the price went up, and we saw that there were a lot of shortages. So that's just one example that kind of ties into these pricing decisions that we're about to get into with a little more detail. Okay, so when looking at pricing decisions, we do have to analyze what we call time horizon. So with time horizon, we have both short run and long run. Typically, your short run decisions have a time horizon of less than a year. So let's say, for example, a company is looking to meet certain goals or certain profits, etc., within the next few months. Let's say they say before the beginning of summer, we want X amount of sales. We would categorize that as a short run decision under the time horizon scope. And then for long run decisions, typically we're looking at a year or more. So again, using the same company, if we're setting goals with this company for the year 2027 or 2028, we would then categorize that as a long run decision. So these costs are often irrelevant for short run. They're typically irrelevant for short run pricing, also known as fixed costs, that are often relevant in the long run. So for example, there are certain costs that you may be factoring in now because in the long run, they will matter. Right now, they may not matter so much, but these are one of the factors that you do have to pay attention to with time horizons because there are certain levels of importance depending on the time scope that you're operating within and where exactly you fall within for the time horizon you've given yourself for whatever project you're working on. Also understand that fixed costs is something to take into consideration during this time frame. So fixed costs are what we consider costs that are constant. So regardless of what's going on with profitability, whatever sales are being made, etc., fixed costs are going to remain the same. Some examples of these are, let's say if your office needed to or your business needed to rent out an office space. Whatever that cost would be the cost every month, regardless of what was happening. Let's say we're here in the state of Georgia, you would want to factor in taxes. Taxes typically are going to remain the same. Insurance costs, etc. These are some of the things that we're considering. And then secondly, we're also looking at profit margins in long run pricing. Decisions are often set to earn a reasonable return on investment. So again, those are things that you're going to look towards at the end of your venture. So an example for costing and pricing for the short run. Let's say that Clayton County Corporation operates a plant with a monthly capacity of 500 cases of tomato sauce. Clayton County is presently producing 300,000 cases per month. Duval has asked Clayton County and two other companies to bid on supplying 150,000 cases each month for the next 4 months. Again, that's an example of short run. Alternatively, if we're looking at long run price approaches, again, we're going to be looking at the market base as well as cost base, also known as cost plus. So here we're going to get into a few examples talking about target price and target cost. So a target price is the estimated price for a product or service that potential customers would be willing to pay. So our formula for that is target price minus target operating income per unit, and that's what will equal our target cost per unit. So here we have a few steps to follow in this process. So for one, you're going to develop a product that will actually satisfy the needs or the desires of potential customers. Secondly, you're going to choose a target price. Thirdly, you derive a target cost per unit. And then you perform value engineering to achieve target costs. So here we have an example. Let's say Letitia's management company wants a 15% target operating income on sales revenue of CC. The target sales revenue is $750 per unit. We want to know what is the target cost per unit. So using the previous formula, which essentially we have as our target cost, our target price minus the profit that we're looking for. We're going to multiply the 15% we pulled from here times the 750. Remember, the unit is in dollars. So when we multiply 15% times $750, we arrive at $112.50. Now, to get our target cost, we're subtracting that from the $750 we originally had, which gives us $637.50. Okay, so value engineering is a systematic evaluation of all aspects of the value chain business function with the objective of reducing costs. And so we're not the most knowledgeable about this because obviously we're accounting students, we're still learning. But when we're looking at companies who are looking to hire professionals, engineers, statisticians, for pharmaceuticals, maybe biostatisticians, they're looking at this type of approach in order to determine what we're evaluating here with not only the pricing decisions, but also cost management. And that's why oftentimes you'll see they're looking for a certain pedigree for that type of employee, because there are a lot of factors that go into these into this business. There are a lot of factors that go into this business, depending on whatever it is exactly that you all are looking to achieve. Now, with value added costs, this is important. What we consider as a value added cost is a cost that customers perceive as adding value or utility to a product or a service. So an example would be, let's say we were looking at laptops. This is a picture of a laptop here, if you can see. So as students, obviously we need laptops. We need reliable laptops. These are some of the things we're going to look into when we're trying to make our purchase. If I'm an MBA student and I know that I do a lot of work on my laptop, I might want to know, does this product have adequate memory? Does it have preloaded software I might need to complete some of my assignments? How reliable is it? Like I just mentioned, we've all had the situation where your computer just crashes and you're kind of just stuck. You don't know what to do. You might end up not being able to complete an assignment. We don't want those types of situations. We might also look at, does it have an easy to use keyboard? So each of these factors are something like what we would consider as value added costs. Now for non-value added costs, these are costs that consumers typically do not perceive as adding much value or utility to a product or service. So some examples of these might be cost expediting, any rework that may be required, or repairs that may be needed if so. Okay. So cost incurrence describes when a resource is sacrificed or foregone in order to meet a specific objective. So some areas we'll look at under this category would be research and development, manufacturing, distribution, design, marketing, or customer support. Okay. And then for locked-in costs, these are the costs that have not yet been incurred, however, based on decisions have already been made and will be incurred in the future. They are also known as designed-in costs. It is difficult, excuse me, it is difficult to alter or reduce costs that are already locked in. And so this graph hopefully will kind of explain why. So here, if you look at the line that starts at the top, this is what we consider our locked-in costs. And the line at the bottom, which is red, is our cost incurrence curve. So it kind of shows how the two of them intertwine. Essentially, when we're trying to sell a product and arrive at a particular cost, this is the type of graph that we're going to look at to see where the 2 points meet. And essentially where they meet will give you that information to determine what steps may be best to take next. And then lastly, we have price discrimination laws. This is just important to look at and for us to know, especially for those of us that plan to venture into business in this way, because there are laws around how we should operate when we're doing price determination as well as our cost management. So predatory pricing occurs when the predator company charges a price that is below an appropriate measure of its costs, and the predator company has a reasonable prospect of recovering in the future the money it lost by pricing below cost. Here in the United States, it's good to note that most courts have defined the appropriate measure of costs as short-run marginal and average variable costs. And so that does conclude my presentation. Hopefully you all learned a little bit of information on how you can best consider to approach with your next business, with your next investment, etc., how to price and how to make decisions when pricing, as well as how to manage costs once your business is in full effect. Lastly, we have a few references that helped me to put this presentation together. And thank you so much for listening to my presentation. Have a great day.